I never felt like I fit in. And growing up, that kind of continued and developed. Like I could never really connect. So it was very difficult. By the time I was 12 years old, like right around puberty, and that's where our brain and our body start changing, I became very depressed. I began self-harming, so I have scars all over my body, and I began to develop that like suicidal ideation of like I didn't want to exist anymore. The self-harming was a way to like I would rather feel and inflict pain on myself so I could feel something than nothing at all. Inside I felt like I was dying, and once I began self-harming, things like really escalated. When you're depressed, it's really, really challenging and difficult to get out of that dark hole, but there is a way out, and you are the only person who can get yourself out there.
Hey guys, thank you for coming back to watch this podcast, Overcoming Depression. Today we have an amazing guest, Alexandra Rubin. She has an amazing story that she's gonna share with us today. Just really quick, I wanna give you a little brief introduction of myself. My name is Adolfo Segovia. I struggled with depression for more than 10 years. When I was 18 years old, I was kidnapped by a drug cartel. A month later, I was jumped at gunpoint, and like 3 or 4 weeks later, we had to escape my country, Mexico, because the cartel was asking my family for money. So I moved to the U.S. Almost 15 years ago, and after all those traumatic events, I started suffering depression. And it's a long story. We have it in a different episode, but now please let's listen to Alexandra's story. I hope that you like it and that it can help you change your life or see life in a different way. Alexandra, thank you for being in my podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored. I can't wait to come back.
I'm honored to have you. You're amazing. You're an amazing person. I'm so happy to have you here.
No, I'm
And
excited.
obviously, I cannot believe your story. So I think that you can have an amazing impact
Yeah.
on the people that are watching this podcast. So could you start like from the beginning,
Yeah.
how it
Absolutely.
started?
Yeah.
Or maybe introduce yourself really quick
Yeah.
in a minute and then start your story?
Yeah. So I'm a personal trainer currently. I also have my own private practice where I primarily help women who have experienced traumatic brain injuries, who live with PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I work with a variety of women who also have additional injuries as well. And I help to teach them, like how to not only build the body and become athletic and toned again. A lot of the women I work with are veterans from the military. I also have some time in the military. I'll touch briefly on that. But helping these women to get back to a point where it's not so difficult to function. Living with PTSD, CPTSD, and traumatic brain injury, which I have all three of them, is extremely difficult, especially when it limits brain function. And what exercise actually does is it helps us prevent further damage to our neural pathways. So like how our brain communicates, it helps us to promote building new neural pathways. And it essentially it helps us heal just in
Yes,
so many different
I
ways.
believe that exercise is it's definitely my top recommendation for people struggling with depression.
Yeah.
I mean, exercising, and not to give Equinox an advertisement, but Equinox changed my life. Going to that gym changed my life.
Yeah.
But let's
Yeah,
talk about
saved my life.
exercise in a bit.
Yeah.
Tell me your story.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
happened with you?
Well, I can say that just from a very young age, I never felt like I fit in. I always felt like I was crawling in my skin. And like we were talking about earlier, I feel like if I could have just ripped off my skin, maybe I would feel normal. I know it sounds really weird, but I was just so uncomfortable with who I was. I was always very like dissatisfied with.
Was this related to gender?
No, no,
No,
no, no,
nothing like
no,
that,
nothing
right?
like that. No.
Just to clarify,
Yeah, no
it was not
judgment.
gender related,
No
nothing.
judgment like that. But no, it was just more like I never felt like I fit in. And growing up, that kind of continued and developed. Like I could never really connect to the other kids. I had friends, but I never felt like I could really connect to them and have like an intimate relationship, like an intimate friendship, like where I show you who I really am and then you show me who you really are. And we have that unconditional love for each other. Like a very blessed where I grew up. My parents did the very best that they could. Now, they didn't really get along, but they did the best that they could.
So you had a good household, a family.
Well, my parents didn't really get along. So witnessing that as a kid was very difficult because their conversations were not conversations. They mainly argued.
Okay.
And I felt like a burden, as a kid, like when I saw my parents fighting, or and I think this happens for a lot of children, like I thought it was my fault that they were fighting because I didn't have the capacity to understand. So that was very difficult. By the time I was 12 years old, like right around puberty, and that's where our brain and our body start changing, I became very depressed, very anxious. I could not speak in front of people. I couldn't even call, my doctor to make an appointment on the phone. I began isolating and I began self-harming. I developed anorexia, which is an eating disorder where I restrict
And that's when you
myself
were 12 years
when
old.
I was 12.
You are actually the first person that I hear that has had an issue. And I mean, I heard a lot of young kids
Yeah.
or young adults. I don't know what's the correct way to name them, but young adults having depression. And to be very honest, that this is one of the things that we need to break that stigma that kids can have depression as well.
Absolutely.
So, to be very honest,
Absolutely.
I thought it was a stupidity, and I'm sorry of my ignorance, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
ignorance in this around these topics.
Yeah.
So kids can get depressed. You were depressed at 12 years old.
12 years old. I began self-harming, so I have scars all over my body. And I began to develop that like suicidal ideation of like I didn't want to exist anymore. And it wasn't so much that I wanted to die, it was like I was desperate to feel like anything and feel this like I never really felt anything. I was so depressed, I just felt numb. So the self-harming was a way to like, well, I would rather feel and inflict pain on myself so I could feel something than nothing at all. I felt empty. It was like I was walking around with no soul.
How was your relationship with your parents when you were 12?
I mean, I was a typical like angry,
You were
angsty
like an angry kid.
12-year-old. I was a very angry kid. And I felt like I was never like taken seriously and they never really listened to me. And granted, like my parents had their own problems that they were dealing with, but they did the best they could.
Yes.
Like all of us as adults are just children trying to like use the skills of like what we've learned to like
Yeah,
get through
I'm
life.
sure your parents were trying. They just didn't
Yeah.
know how
They just
to
didn't know.
address it. So how long it took for them to take you to a doctor to understand that you were depressed? Because in the beginning, I'm sure they were like, "Oh, it's just like a normal thing for kids, right?" That's what I would thought. That's what I would think if I see a 12-year-old in bed for a day, or like she's a child, like tomorrow she's gonna be better.
Yeah.
How long
So
it took them to realize or
So
to look for
for
help?
for me, I was really good at things. So like on the outside, I was like the perfect poster child, straight A's. I played three sports out of a 4-sport season. I sang in my church's choir. I played an instrument, like I did all the deal. But inside, I felt like I was dying. And once I began self-harming, things like really escalated. I began like hearing voices. And I think that was from like restricting myself to the point of like literally like being delusional. And one night I just cracked and I was self-harming, and I wrote my parents a letter about how I wanted to kill myself and
My
I
God.
needed help. And I felt like I remember writing in the letter like a scale from 1 to 10, and 0 was feeling absolutely worthless and that my life means nothing, and 10 is that I felt fulfilled, and I put myself on like a -1 or something like that. And I was like, this is how I feel, and if something doesn't happen, I'm going to kill myself.
And
So then
you were still 12 at that time, or you were already like
I think I
older?
was 13 at
13
this
already.
age.
So almost 1 year of issues.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, when I was in at my worst point with
Mm,
depression, I start feeling like you just said, lost,
yeah,
or
yeah.
you
Lost.
said a word. You just said a word. Like I was
Like
losing
worthless.
myself. No, I was
Oh,
losing myself.
yeah.
I remember one day
Like a lost soul.
I was taking a shower. No, I
Mm,
was losing my brain.
yeah. Oh,
I
yeah,
was,
going psychotic, pretty
yes,
much. Yeah,
psychotic.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was taking a shower, and I
Mm,
remember I spent an hour, 1 hour
yeah.
taking a shower. And I was like, in my mind, okay, I need to shower, and then I need to
But you just, it's like
go,
you
do
can't
this, do that.
move.
And then after an hour, I would realize, oh my God, it's been an hour, and I'm just staring at the water. And that freaked me out. And
Yeah,
that's when I just run out for help. So I felt that too. So you felt it,
yeah,
and what happened? Okay, the letter. Sorry to
yeah.
interrupt you. The letter.
No.
You felt that you wanted to kill yourself, and you sent it, give it to your parents. What happened then?
Yeah, so I actually left it on the stairs leading up to my father's office, which he slept in. My parents slept in separate bedrooms. And the next day when I came downstairs, my parents were waiting for me at the table, and they're like, "Okay, we're like, tell us.
We
Like
hear you.
we're here for you. We're like, and that was actually like the first time I feel like they heard me, and they saw. And then I went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, "Yeah, she has like mild depression and mild anxiety." And that just, I was like so invalidating. I was like, I was literally just told you I was going to kill myself, and it's mild.
They took you to the psychiatrist or the psychologist?
Both.
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 And both
So
agree
the
on the same?
psychologist, I started going to therapy and seeing a therapist a couple times a week, and then I went to a psychiatrist who put me on like some antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication. And there was a while where we had to like kind of figure out what meds for me to take.
Yes.
But they didn't really work. And like these voices started getting worse because I didn't tell my family about the eating disorder. I just told them I was suicidal and that I was self-harming, and I felt depressed and very anxious. But I kept the eating disorder to myself, so I continued to like just drop weight. I was obsessively like counting calories, obsessively working out.
Did you stop harming yourself?
For years later. So at one point, I started hearing voices telling me to kill myself. And I told my parents, and I immediately got rushed to the emergency room, and they put me in a psych ward. And I think it was Thanksgiving, Christmas in the psych ward, so almost 2 months. And then my doctor discovered that I kept losing weight. Didn't take very much to figure out I had an eating disorder. Then I got put in an inpatient unit for disordered eating.
Could you share the experience in the
Yeah.
psychiatric ward? How
Yeah.
is it?
I mean, I don't know what it's like as an adult. Thankfully, I've, been able to move past that. But as a kid, I it's terrifying. But I knew there was like nothing that I could do.
But
The
did you have
staff was
like it was
amazing.
like a regular room, or it was like in the movies, like a four white walls?
No, not so much like a four white walls, it's kind of like
Were you constrained? No.
no, 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 no. So like if you go to a hospital, it's kind of like an office suite, right? So you have like the fluorescent lights and like the tiles, and so the one that I went into, you had like the registration, and then they had these big doors, and they had classrooms on each side. Like it was kind of like that was kind of like a little
Like a
school
nice
area.
place.
Then it opened up into a larger room where on the right side, they had like a circle of chairs, like a lounge area, and then they had like it was like a cafeteria. So it was almost like being back in school, except when you went further down the hallway, if you've ever been to a hospital where they have like rooms where like people stay, it
Hmm.
was kind of like that, where there's like 2 to 3 beds in
Okay.
each
For
room.
how long were you there?
2 months, and
And
then I went to the eating disorder facility, and then I tried to kill myself there, so then they brought me right back.
oh my God. And what was the
Um,
diagnosis? What was happening to you?
They said I was depressed and suicidal and anxious, and the eating disorder and the way that it affected my body, I'm sure didn't help. But it's hard to tell like what exactly was a trigger. It's not like I had these huge traumatic events happen in my life as a young child. It's just like growing up in like a chaotic household, but like no abuse, no
So
nothing,
there was
nothing
no
insane
abuse,
like that.
nothing.
I mean, like I got bullied a lot in school. I never really fit in, so there was like a weird like social disconnect, but nothing big, like no
Did you feel
major
like
event.
hate? Did you hate like other kids or had like
I never hated other kids. I just felt really hurt because I didn't think anyone liked me. And
you
like
didn't feel pretty or something like that?
well,
Or you didn't
I
feel
remember I
accepted?
remember in kindergarten this kid was like braiding my hair, and I turned around to thank him because no one had really like paid that much attention to me. And he looked at me and he was like, "Oh, you're not Megan," and was like, "Oh." And I was just like, "Ow, like that hurt."
You
And
know what?
and
That something like that happened to me
yeah,
as a child, and those things hurt a
they
lot,
hurt deeply,
deeply. Yes,
deeply.
it's true. But do you think, because I mean, sometimes something weird happened to me
Mm.
when I was in Mexico. I was like, I don't know, 14 years old, and I used to go to a place where we learn the catechismo, which is, to do the first communion. I don't know if you heard of that.
Mm.
And I believe I was like 10 years old. And the son of the woman teaching the classes, the Catholic classes to do the first communion, he was like, he was sick. He had some type of disability. I don't know exactly what type of disability, but he was really sick. And I remember one day he grabbed me by the hand and he took me to his bedroom and he pulled his pants off
Mm.
and he grabbed his penis.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I completely forgot that event until like I was, I believe, 17, and I was in church because I used to go to Christian church as well. And one day, after 8 or 9 years without seeing him at all,
Mm.
ever, I saw him. And the first thing that came to my mind was that thought that I completely erased
Wow.
for 8 years.
Wow.
And I don't think, no, I believe nothing happened. To be honest, I don't remember.
Mm.
I believe I just like, I saw him doing that and I just left.
Yeah, of course.
But do you think something like that happened to you, maybe? Some.
So there was a girl whose family would babysit us, and she had a really like from an adult, it looked really rough. Like, it seemed like her family was a little questionable. And she grew up with like older brothers and stuff, and they were not nice older brothers. And she would like want to like kiss me and touch me in like very inappropriate ways. And I couldn't do it. I froze. I was like, could not do
How
anything.
old was she?
We're the same age. It
Oh,
was like probably when I was like 10. But it's like, you know, like I've spoken about this with my therapist, and it's weird because it's like, you know, you're a kid, so you don't really know better, but it's still like a form of like
abuse.
of
And she's still
abuse.
a kid too. Like,
You know, right. And it's sad because now as an adult, I can recognize that someone was probably doing those things to her.
yeah.
And then that's her projecting that onto me. And it's horrible.
You know, I heard so many stories of child
Mm.
rape or child abuse that it's crazy.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
crazy. So, okay, going back to you
Mm.
tried to kill yourself when
Yes.
you were in the eating
Eating
facility
disorder, yeah.
disorder.
Then I went back to the psych ward. Finally went back to the eating disorder facility, graduated, did an outpatient. And pretty much like the rest of my middle school and high school looked exactly like that, in and out of psych wards. I used to tell all the kids I had mono, which is basically like a disease or like some, I don't even know what it is that makes you really tired and that you can't do anything.
Monocleosis.
I don't even know. I don't even, yeah, something like that.
Well,
That's what my
it's
parents told me to tell them.
it's funny because the past episode that we did, the person who talked here, his son died of monocleosis.
Oh my God, it's
Yes.
awful.
So that's episode 3, Ivan Alarcon. So middle school, high school too.
Yeah, all through. I feel like I spent more time in psych wards than I did in school.
So what were doctors saying? Or
Well, just she's depressed, she's sick,
and your parents,
they didn't know what to do. They just did
they
the best
they
that
tried the
what they
best.
could, you know? Like what do you do when your kid who you love and you care about is like, "Hey, by the way, I want to kill myself." Like you do everything that you
And
possibly
what were you
could.
feeling,
I
Alexandra?
don't what was I
What were
feeling?
you feeling? Why do
I
you want to kill
I
yourself?
I couldn't tell you.
You don't have any
I
idea, reason, something that made you sad, memories.
I mean, like, yeah, I was bullied and my parents fought a lot and like, you know, I think I came into this world with like not really having right brain chemistry, and I was never taught how to like manage my emotions. And like, you know, from a young age, like hurting myself, that's traumatic, right? Like being under the stress of depression and anxiety creates your cortisol to go up. And when your cortisol goes up and it stays up and can cause like inflammation and swelling in the brain and all these problems. And there's actually like seems to be a lot of data coming out that a lot of people who have had like long-term trauma, so complex trauma, and who have like suffered from anxiety and depression are more likely to develop cancer and autoimmune diseases, and which can be mitigated through like working through it and healing. But I honestly, I think it was just brain chemistry. Like I think it was just the way I was wired, on top of like just the circumstances of which I grew up, and not ever having the skills to be able to properly manage.
Okay. So, high school, did you ever had a boyfriend?
Yes, I had. I mean, like nothing. Well, my first boyfriend cheated on me in freshman year, and that really sucked, you know. I actually went to a different high school than my town's high school my freshman year, because I was bullied a lot in middle school, and I didn't want to grow up with those kids. So I'm like, oh, I'll go to a different high school. I went to a charter school. Um, I didn't like, it was such a small school that like, and the class started in middle school. So everybody had already established like a relationship. And I didn't like one of my early childhood friends from elementary school went to this charter school. And she was so good about like involving me with her friend group and like getting us all together, but I still like never felt like I was a part of, And high school and sophomore year, I ended up going back to the high school. I was in special education classes. Yeah, so all that stuff. So sophomore year was actually like an all right year for me. Like I had a boyfriend, he went to college, so it didn't really work out. And like that really negatively affected me because I had such low self-worth. I thought he was breaking up because of me, which I was pretty crazy back then, so I'm sure that was part of it. But me, it's like, hey, I'm going to college. Like, I'm never going to see you. Like, this is not going to happen. As an adult, okay, I can understand that. As a kid, I can't comprehend that. Um, then my junior year was not a great year, but I decided that I wanted to do dual enrollment. So I was trying to like escape again. So I was the first student at my high school to go to college and high school my senior year. So I did that for the first semester. And so I went to college during the day, and then I would finish up my night courses at the high school. I'd take night classes. Um, and then um, the second half of so I was exposed to like a lot of the kids that like did drugs and drank and smoked weed and like kind of like the bad kids, and I started hanging out with them, and I started drinking and like smoking and like experimenting with different enhancers
Drugs.
and yeah, different drugs, and it helped me to escape my reality. And then I felt normal. Like when I drank, I would feel normal. And when I smoked, I would feel normal. When I took drugs, I felt like freaking better than normal than I ever had. So I got really involved with that. Then my school told me, so junior and sophomore year, I ran track and field and I loved it. And that was like the beginning of like getting into fitness and really having a positive impact on my life. They told me that I couldn't participate in track and field if I wasn't at the school. Like I couldn't do dual enrollment and I wouldn't be able to go to prom if I did dual enrollment. So I was like, well, fuck you, college. I'm gonna go finish because I wanted to, do the prom thing and do a sport I
Yeah, have
loved. And
friends, and at that time you had friends,
yeah, I
bad
mean,
friends, but friends.
yeah, right. So I felt like my life had some semblance of like being normal.
Exactly.
And then of course with like the drugs and alcohol, I felt normal like pretty much all the time. And then my senior year, I just like had, we call it like senioritis, like just trying to get through. And I was still very depressed. I was very anxious. I was still very insecure, very lazy. I gained a ton of weight. So my,
Senior year of high
of
school or
high school,
college?
high
High
school.
school.
So senior year, my weight started going up. It was like around 170. I graduated, awesome. And then my partying and drug abuse and drinking and smoking. Smoking wasn't like too bad for me, but the drugs and the alcohol really took off. So I started partying with older people in Boston. I would sneak out of my house. I would sneak out of my window. I was on the second story, sneak out of my window, climb off the roof, jump down onto like the porch, and then I like someone would pick me up or I would drive away when I thought my parents were asleep. And I thought they didn't know, but they knew. And I started getting really involved with that. And then like, like still partying, whatever, I still felt normal, but like I didn't feel right. I was still very anxious and depressed. And like when I wasn't drinking and when I wasn't taking drugs, I felt horrible. Um, and I ended up being assaulted. I was raped by a police officer on a date in his car. And yeah, it was really fucked up. And I couldn't do anything because he's like, I'm a cop. Like, if you do try anything, I'm going to fuck
But
your life
rape
up.
a cop
Hmm.
in his own car.
Hmm. Not a cop car. We were on a date.
Okay.
So he wasn't in uniform. We went on a date. It was actually going really well. He was going to drive me home. He pulled over and he was like, we're doing this. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this. And he,
And well,
what can I, a dude that's way stronger than I was,
and
and
did you call the police after that? Did you
No.
do something?
No, because he threatened me.
Come on.
He threatened me, yeah. He was like, if you tell anyone, I'm going to fuck you up. I know everything about you. I'll make your life miserable. He's
Oh
like,
my
I will,
God.
yeah. So it's like,
Okay, so
yeah,
more
really fucked
trauma.
up, more trauma. And I just remember that going home, feeling powerless, empty inside, in pain because it hurt. It hurt the way he forced himself on me. And I ran myself a shower to the point where like the shower was literally burning me, and I sat there for an hour, and I was like trying to like burn him off of me. And a few weeks later, I was like ready to like reach out for help because it was like it was killing me inside. I reached out to my old school psychologist. He brought in like the town detective, and basically they were like, unfortunately, like he's a cop, like you would have had to gotten a rape kit done like that night, so they would have gotten his stuff, you know, and I didn't do that. So it's just word of mouth. Like it was strictly word of mouth. And they're like, you know, you can go to court, but I'm just letting you know, like, I'll support you, but it might, like, it may be more traumatic for you to go through court and then for them to not, like, who's going to believe, like, this young girl
We had a lot
who,
of
you know,
problems, right?
out over an esteemed cop with a lot of problems, with a history of a psych ward, right? I'll look crazy. And I know that the cop was telling me this. They were right.
And maybe that's why this guy abused you because he
Because it
knew
was easy. It
it
was
was
easy. It
easy.
was easy. I mean, he didn't know about like my past or anything like that, but you know, like anyways, so yeah, that was really fucked up. I cracked. I cracked after that.
So, what happened when you hit the bottom?
Yeah, so I was gonna kill myself. And at this point, I had already tried a bunch of times and it never worked. You know, I tried like slitting my wrists open. I tried taking a bunch of pills, and like I never did enough to actually end it. And I believe that was like what I call God or a higher power, whatever someone believes in, just something that's not me and something greater than myself wanted me here. So it never really happened. So I ended up in a wilderness program, a wilderness therapy, and I spent 2 months in bumfuck Utah, hiking around, and I got to do all these amazing things and make these incredible bonds with people, and really like get into fitness and the outdoors, and it was very healing. But when I came back, it was the same environment, and I like would have to drive by the street that I was raped on, and I would have to like drive by all my, the ex's house that cheated on me, and the one that left me, and the high school and the middle school. It was tough. It was really tough to be back there. And so then my drinking, drugging, and partying really took off really bad, really quickly. And at one point, my dad actually received a parking ticket from me parking in Boston, like from like 4 in the morning. And he was like, hey, like, I know what you're doing. Like, this is really risky and dangerous behavior. So, like, he basically gave me the option of like, you can stop and like we can pursue getting more help and more treatment and whatever. But if this continues, I can't allow it in my house. And at the time, I was pissed because I wanted to like run away from how I felt. But as an adult, I'm like, I know that took so much out of him to set that boundary.
Yes,
And he's trying to save my life.
I believe in that.
Yeah, right.
I
You can't
mean,
just enable
I
people.
don't come from my dad was very strict,
Yes.
and he was very super loving, super everything, but
Hmm.
he was the type of dad that, okay, you don't want to go to school, then you cannot live in this house
Right.
and get your
Right.
shit and get out of here.
'Cause, I mean, we're
Like,
kids. We don't know.
exactly, you have to set boundaries with
Yeah.
even with kids, even with you who were depressed and that. I think that he did the right way, the right thing. So what did you do? You left?
Yeah, so I said, fuck you, Dad. I couch surfed for a while. I lived out of my car for a little bit, just out of like spite. I had places to go, but I was like, I don't need anyone's help. I can get through all this stuff myself. It was very selfish, very, very selfish, and very like victim mindset. And like, I'm the only one going through this. And so I ended up moving in my grandparents, and I brought the same shit to my grandparents, and I was so ashamed that I could not stop. I couldn't stop. So I decided to join the military. And
Okay.
that's when I enlisted into the army. And they cleared me. They were like, you know what, you're good to go. Like, because I had like, I started exercising. I started dropping weight. I felt better. I didn't feel depressed. I didn't have the cloudiness of the mind. I started like getting motivated and like really like taking a look at myself of like, why am I doing these things? And the kind of like the depression and anxiety and all that crazy shit melted away. And they were like, hey, like, you're
So
good to go.
essentially, the military is when you started feeling better. We
Yes.
could say that joining the military is what helped you. It was the beginning of a change.
Well, in order for me to join the military, I was 180 pounds, over 180 pounds at that point. So I had to get down to 154 pounds, which was the weight cutoff in the next 3 months, or they wouldn't even accept me. And I was like, okay, for the first time in my life, I'm going to follow through with something. And like, I'm not stupid. I know that fitness is good. I know exercising is good for me. So I stopped eating a ton of junk food. I cut back on what I ate and I started walking. When I started moving my body, that's what started to shift. Like the moving the body. The military was the reason why.
But when you were in high school, you were doing track and field.
Right. And I felt better doing that. I felt better doing that, but I got sidetracked with drugs and alcohol and partying.
Okay, so you started changing your lifestyle. You
Hmm.
lost 30, 40 pounds in 3 months to
Hmm.
join the military, and that's why it started helping you,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
And then you joined the military.
Yeah. And you have to be like super fit in the military because they smoke you. They, if you don't, yeah, they just smoke us for no reason. We'd be doing push-ups and
And
planks
you
for
you
hours.
wanted to go to the military because
I needed structure. I wanted structure,
structure.
and I knew that the military would break me down in a way and mold me into like I had this idea of like who I wanted to be, and I wanted someone with more discipline because I knew I had none.
You know, it's
Um,
funny because I thought about the military too,
yeah.
just to have structure because I live by myself here, and all
Mhm.
my family is in Mexico.
Yeah.
So I essentially have no one in Miami, and I know that caused me a lot of depression.
Yeah.
That increased the depression. And obviously, when you are depressed, you don't go out, you don't go out, you don't make friends, you don't make friends, you're alone. It's a cycle. But once I start breaking that pattern, that cycle, it's when things are starting to change for
Yeah.
me. So that's what happened to you. And I thought about the military because I just wanted company. I just
Yeah.
wanted to have someone to talk.
Right. Right.
So you join the military and you start feeling better.
I started feeling better. I mean, I could run. I kept losing weight. I ate better. I made better decisions, and it was, they put you through some really, really challenging things. And there were some moments where I did not think that I was going to make it, but I did. And I'm a firm believer that when we do things that challenge us and we follow through with those things, it builds self-esteem. It builds the trust in yourself that like, even though this is really hard and really uncomfortable, I can show up for myself. And you begin to follow through. And so that's like what started happening to me, but I wasn't yet ready to let go of who I was. I started dating someone in the military and all the red flags were there, but I thought I could fix him, which by the way, we cannot fix other people. The only person you can fix is yourself. I thought I could
Barely.
fix
We
him.
can barely fix
Yeah, we
ourselves.
can barely, yeah. So how can we fix someone else? So I started dating someone. I got to my advanced training, and I had a traumatic brain injury from a major concussion in training, and I was denied treatment. My drill sergeant literally told me to suck it up. Um, and when I graduated like 2 days later, I just played it off, but like I felt like very nauseous and like lights really bothered me and I couldn't sleep and like I like started forgetting things. And so I went to my advanced individual training. I started at the top of my class. I was going to be a combat medic with airborne. I was going to jump out of planes and save people. And I felt like that would have given my life purpose. So I started at the top of my class and like started failing out almost. I couldn't remember anything. And then I started dating this guy, and it was just like, it was crazy. And I kept asking for help and asking for help and telling my doctor, like, hey, I got a concussion. Like, I need this to be looked at. I need this to be looked at. And when you go to sick call in training, they only allow you to like treat one thing. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And so I also developed pneumonia, bronchitis, and another upper respiratory illness. And you could only really go once a week. So 4 weeks I spent dealing with like not being able to breathe. And then I kept I kept seeing the same doctor. I kept harassing her every single time. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. And finally she was like, okay, fine. I'll send you to the TBI clinic, the traumatic brain injury clinic. They did like a CT scan or something along the lines of that. And of course, they can't find anything because there's no baseline. The swelling had gone down, but it had permanently damaged my brain, but there's no baseline, so you can't see where the damage is. And when I spoke to the neurologist, she's like, everything you're telling me sounds like post-concussive syndrome. So when you have like prolonged symptoms, and she's like, but I can't prove it. So there's nothing I can do for you. So then the military wrote it off as like I fucking cracked mentally. And like, yeah, of course I'm gonna crack when you're not sleeping. You can't eat, you can't remember anything. Like, it's painful to look at fluorescent lights. Like anyone, I felt like I was going crazy. And so they discharged me like 2 days before I would have been eligible for VA. So I didn't get any benefits or anything like that. And when I got out, I had a few friends telling me like, hey, you need to pursue this. But I didn't, and that's my fault, you know. And I also didn't want like, I didn't want money from the government. Like,
Yeah.
you can't like, okay, great, you're gonna send me money for permanent brain damage. Like, there's no making up for that. So
Okay. When do you start feeling better? When?
when I when I stopped viewing myself as a victim, so I continued dating the guy in the military. He left the military and he was very abusive,
You got in an
very,
abusive relationship.
very, very toxic. And I never hit him or anything like that, but I put myself in that position. I knew what I got myself into, and I did not leave. So I had to take personal responsibility for that. And when I was sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, that's when I changed. Like, I started listening to like motivational, like David Goggins and Greg Plitt. And the first motivational I ever listened to is a Greg Plitt video titled if you look up on YouTube, it's called It Begins Now, Greg Plitt. And I have that audio saved to my phone. And he says that second by second, we have the opportunity to become the person we want to be. And time is ticking away. So like, when are you going to be that person? And man, hearing that changed my life, you know. And he was like, you don't have to wait till tomorrow. Start right now.
So
Just
suddenly
start right
you
now.
just decided to.
So something clicked because I was just so tired of feeling sick and tired. I was like, I'm going to die if I keep doing this.
Yes.
And my drinking, and then I really got involved in smoking weed. I started taking ecstasy, like a lot of it, and just all this crazy shit. I couldn't function without it. And I was like, I'm gonna die. I'm literally gonna die if I don't stop. So I was tired of being sick and tired. So I started listening to the motivational videos, and like I started listening to Alan Watts and Terrence McKenna, and like I became very spiritual and like really doubling down on the belief that like there has to be something greater than myself out there. It doesn't have to be defined by anything, but like I don't think I'd be alive if there wasn't something there like keeping me here. And that faith kind of like kept me going, and I began to like listen to what Greg Plitt was saying, and David Goggins is like, I get David Goggins, and listening to like Jocko Willink and people who have like really done difficult, challenging things and been through some horrific things, but have taken that and become better for that. And I started to model that in my own life. And it gave me the strength to leave the abusive relationship I was in, and started to actually consistently go to the gym and get into strength training. And while I was in that relationship, the only thing that kept me going was I would run for 10 miles a day in the Houston heat. And if you've ever been to Houston, it's very hot, especially in the summer. Listening to Greg Plitt, David Goggins, Jocko Willink, on repeat, and just ingraining that into my brain.
I do the same. I listen to all of them, and every morning,
Shout out to Jocko. Shout out to David Goggins. I
every
love you
time I
guys.
wake up, I start listening to motivation. And on another episode, I was talking about that we listen to so much crap, the popular music, the TV, stupid shit that doesn't help us at all. When I was a bit against motivational speakers because it's like, oh, motivational speaker, I don't need motivation. But in reality, we do need motivation because we need to listen to positive stuff,
Yes.
that we can do it, we can fight, we can be happy, we can live a good life. We don't need to live sad. We don't need to have this horrible, depressed life, always feeling guilty, always feeling like shit.
Yeah.
We can have a beautiful life. A lot of people have a beautiful life. So I want to have a beautiful life too, and it's possible.
Yes.
So you started changing. So now, obviously, how do you feel now, today?
I feel amazing.
You feel amazing.
I have peace. I have peace of mind. And the reason I'm here, right, is the more I talk about the really difficult, challenging things, the less power it has over me. And I feel peaceful. And the more that I work on myself, the more that I show up for myself, the more that I ask myself difficult questions that we are all running away from, who am I? Who do I want to be? How am I going to get there? What needs to change? What do I need to let go of in order to allow space for that new thing to come through? Actually sitting down with myself and evaluating that has helped me to feel more at peace and happy.
Yes.
And joyous and free and I can breathe. I don't try to escape my skin anymore.
Okay, so today you are a fitness trainer. You are a health coach now. Kinda.
I call myself a mindset coach.
Mindset coach. So you are doing great. Let me ask you some questions. Do you believe depression is real?
Absolutely.
And I'm asking this because these are some of the questions that a lot of people still believe depression is a joke.
So it's someone tells you you have heart disease. You can look at the heart and see that there's a problem. The same thing with the brain. It's just that insurance doesn't usually cover CT scans to actually see what's going on in the brain, but it doesn't mean that it's not happening. Your brain is an organ like anything else, and there's a chemical imbalance that happens. That's very real and very dangerous.
Now I'm gonna ask you a little bit of a tough question. I don't know why I have the feeling that almost the whole situation came because you were not able to make the friends, to have a nice environment.
Can never connect.
You were not able to connect for XYZ reasons. I don't know. Maybe you don't even know yet why. What would you tell a young kid, a 12-year-old that is going through what you are going through? What can you tell them? How can they fight this to avoid avoid to go through all this suffering?
Yeah. So what I would say is the first thing is that no matter what you think, is that you're worthy and that you're important and your life matters, and you don't have to have it figured out right now. Just the way that you are right now is perfect. There are like, I think of it this way, right? There's billions of people on this earth, and God wanted you to be here. Like, there's a reason you're here. It's not by coincidence or just because, but also know that it's temporary. It really is. And you can change and you can get out of it. And a skill that is really important to learn is identifying your emotions. So saying, like, I'm sad in this moment. I'm angry in this moment, because sometimes, just like I know when I was a little kid, when I was 12, I just wanted someone to see my pain. But if you acknowledge that in yourself, and you see that in yourself, it makes a huge difference. A huge, huge difference. But you are worth it. Your life matters, and that it's temporary. And the crappy feelings and the crappy experiences that you're going through, it'll pass. It'll pass.
And also maybe don't take things too seriously. When you
Life's
think like
supposed to be fun.
exactly like
Can't
you
have
are
a thing.
12 years, you're 12. Why suffer so much? Like play. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
It's tough. It's tough, you know.
I know, but I don't want 12-year-old kids suffering that way. We need to help them. So, what would you tell their parents, Alexandra, that don't know what to do?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to do today. If I have a 12-year-old kid who tells me, I want to commit suicide,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to do.
I think the most important thing, right, is as a parent, you want to fix the problem. You love your kid, you care about your kid deeply, deeply, and you don't want them to feel that way. But I think the most important thing for you to do is to listen to them. Like, really listen to what they're saying, you know, like, even if it hurts. Because your kid might tell you something that really hurts your feelings. And it's really important for you to be able to be calm and be strong and be there for them. And also for parents, I would say your child is how they feel. You spend the most time with them, right? So they are a product of their environment and what they're learning for you. So if your child does not know how to regulate their emotions, I'm sorry if this hurts, but more likely than not, it's because you do not teach them how to regulate their emotions and how to breathe and how to calm down. And as a parent, that might be shocking, but like, you are an example. They're going to grow up to be a mini you. So being an example of, like, how can I breathe through something that's really challenging? How can I label my emotions? And most importantly, like, how can you be there for your kid and just listen to them and hear them and see what they're going through and validate how they're feeling?
Um, Something that helped me a lot is that my dad and my mom, they are, they, a lot of times, or almost all the time, they come and tell me, I love you.
Yes.
And I don't know if your parents did that with you, but I think it helps a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just to know you're
when my
loved.
parents tell me I love you, I feel weird. I like, oh, dad, don't tell me those things. But when you are sad, those words come.
Yeah.
So it's important, I think, for parents, it's important to give those words of affirmation to your kids. Tell them that you love them, hug them, kiss them, tell them that they are the best, that they are beautiful, that if it's a boy, you are handsome, if it's a girl, you are a beautiful girl, you are my princess. I mean, I don't know. I think that kids are so, I mean, they need so much love. Were
Yeah.
your parents loving with you like
Yeah.
that way?
Yeah. And I think you're right. Like, the
The
affirmations of, like, you're
affirmations are,
smart,
are
you're
key.
intelligent, and actually, like, having them say that too.
Yes,
So they
yes.
know,
And
yeah,
since they are like
huge.
little children,
You know, the beautiful thing about kids is that, like, they bounce back, right? But there comes a point where like they have to have the tools to know how to bounce back, and as parents we're responsible for teaching them how to do that. And I think empowering your children, just like you're saying, of like the words of affirmation every day is so important. It's
I think
crucial
so.
to their growth. Yeah.
Alexandra, obviously, you were also raped by a
Mm.
couple, whoever. What could you tell to someone who was raped?
It's not your fault. You didn't ask for it. And I'm so sorry that you had to go through that and experience that. The most important thing is that it wasn't your fault. I don't care what anyone tells you. I did not go on a date saying like, hey, fucking take advantage of me against my will and leave me with trauma for the rest of my life. No one asked for that. I don't care what you were wearing or what you were saying. It's not your fault. What is our responsibility is if we choose to heal from it, and if we choose to heal from that, or if we choose to stay in that like that victim mode, because that's not healthy either. So just take care of yourself. Please talk about it. Reach out to people. Ask for help.
Okay. Um, Alex, five tips that you could give to someone who is depressed right now, who is trying to kill themselves. 5 tips, specific things,
Okay.
specific. If you do this, you can fight it. And something important is that we we both of us suffer from depression, and we are fighting every day.
Yes.
We are not perfect. We are not like happy all day. For me, depression is something that I fight every day, but I can 100% say that today I'm happy and I live a beautiful life. I have my bad days, but I fight every day. So for me, life is a fight.
Yeah.
Because the truth is that if I stop fighting, it comes back. So I always have to be fighting, always reading, always listening to podcasts, always be very mindful with the stuff that I read, that I watch, that I listen to. So 5 tips that you
Yeah.
can give someone suffering depression.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I'm going to say is move your body. Like, get that. There's energy stored in you that needs to be released. So, move your body, whether it's dancing or getting involved in like a martial art. I do jujitsu and I found that's very helpful. Walking, even just like honestly, like just get out of bed. Like, just move your body. Please, like, shake, whatever it is. That's the first thing. Move your body. 2, watch the way that you speak to yourself. I wouldn't say like, don't enable yourself to do things that you know, like you're smart. You know what you need to do and what you don't need to do. But speak to yourself kindly because you are worthy, and affirmations go a long way. So move your body, speak kindly to yourself, and affirm the incredible person you are, even if you don't feel it. Like literally fake it till you make it every day. And I still, like Adolfo says, I still struggle with depression. I still struggle with anxiety. But what I do is I have an idea of the woman who I want to be. And when I wake up, I like almost like I put on that woman and I act as that woman and I speak how she would speak and I think how she would speak. And over time, like I've gradually become that woman. So like I guess the third one would be have an idea of who you want to be and just try to be that person. And then it does 2 things where you start to see that these crappy feelings are temporary and that also you can be the woman or man or woman or whoever, like who you want to be. The next thing I would also say is reach out for help, please. Like this is so important. Closed mouths don't get fed and they also don't get helped. And the last thing I would say is when you're feeling something really heavy, say, I'm feeling X right now, because sometimes we just need something to be acknowledged. Like what I do is like when I'm feeling sad right now. I'm feeling angry right now. I'm feeling rage right now. And just acknowledging that lessens the pain a little bit. And I know when you're depressed, it's really, really challenging and difficult to get out of that dark hole, but there is a way out, and you are the only person who can get yourself out there.
Obviously, when you're talking about looking for help, obviously, I'm assuming that you refer to parents, but also like a professional, right? Psychology, psychiatrist.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can afford therapy,
Even though they didn't help you for many years, but
because
it does help.
well, when I was going to therapy back then, I wasn't being fully honest with myself and I wasn't being fully honest with my therapist, and I didn't want to go.
Yeah.
I didn't want to feel better for a
So at
long
the end of
time.
the day, it's a decision, right? You have to
Yeah.
make the
You
decision
have
to live, to enjoy life,
right.
to
It's
stop being
of
tired of being tired of.
life is not, it's not easy, but we're the only people that can make it easier or harder. And if I chose to see myself as a victim because I got out of being responsible for my life.
I believe life is beautiful.
It is.
You know that when I'm sad or I'm feeling depressed, I start thinking, and this helps me a lot. Like, I mean, I'm here sad and depressed, and there's a beautiful world outside. There are so many beautiful people, so many beautiful experiences that now that I'm better, I just want to live. I want to
Yeah.
travel the world. I want to meet so many people. I want to experience so many things. I love food. I like to drink. I like to have a drink, wine. I love to work out. I love to, one day I would like to have a wife, have kids, and that's my motivation. I want to be a father. I want to be a good father too. Not just a father. I want to be a good father. I want to be a good husband. So I fight every day to become that person that I see, that I dream. So I mean, for me, life it's a battle. It's a battlefield. The mind is a battlefield. I would also recommend to read books, motivational books. Listen to these motivational speakers. David Goggins. What's the other one?
Greg Plitt, Plitt, Jocko Willink,
Tony
Tony
Robbins.
Robbins, Mel Robbins, Grant Cardone, Gary Vaynerchuk,
Well, those are more
Tom
like
Shetty.
business
No, I think
related.
he has a good message.
But
But
definitely
yeah,
David Goggins. I mean, it's and Tony Robbins. Those are amazing. Um, Alex, something else that you would like to share?
life is worth living, and you have to make the decision that you want to be involved with it, and you're worthy of being involved in it. Everything's temporary, the good, the bad, but like just because just because you're feeling a certain way doesn't mean that it'll last forever. And just because there is a beautiful world outside doesn't mean that your feelings aren't valid. But there is a way out. And you are the only person at the end of the day, no matter what you've been through, you are the only person who can get yourself out of that.
Yeah, definitely. No one is gonna save
And you
you.
can. And you can, no matter how far down on the scale of like trauma and fucked up things. If you've done messed up things, you're not the only one. And you also wouldn't be the first one to have recovered from that. So please just give yourself a chance to do so.
Ali, after all the stuff that you went through, can someone be happy after all that? Are you happy?
Absolutely. Like my life isn't always sunshine and rainbows, and I'm not always like vomiting sparkles and stuff, but like I feel peaceful. I never in a million years, like, granted all the stuff that I've been through, and there's a lot of stuff that we haven't even like touched on today. Um, I never thought in a million years, like while I was in it, that I could live the life that I live. I mean, I'm living my dream. I live a block away from the beach. I'm making more money than I ever have in my life. I have friends. I have people who love me. I get to help people heal for a living. And I don't feel ridden with guilt and shame and anger and sadness. Like, I still feel fear. I feel a lot of fear, but it's because I've gone from just trying to survive, which you might be at right now, to wanting to live, like you said. And when you kind of transition from surviving to want to live, like, you feel happier, you feel lighter, there's less weight. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but it's certainly like unexplainably, like, you have to just give yourself to a chance to experience it for yourself.
Okay, perfect. Alex, anything else that you would like to share?
You know, just keep going another day. Like, you got this, you're worthy, you're worth it, you're loved, you're lovable. My social media handles are all at Muscle to Mindset. I have a free online, I have a private group for women that have PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and CPTSD. You do not have to be officially diagnosed. If you feel you might fit the category, you can join. It's on Facebook. So find me at Muscle to Mindset on pretty much every social media. And if you're interested in working together, then maybe you can post my
Of course, we are going
contact
to
at the.
post your information there. Okay, so dear friends, thank you so much for watching this episode. Please, if someone out there is thinking about committing suicide, please, I beg you, don't do it. Look for help. Call me, call Ali, talk to your parents, talk to someone, but don't kill yourself. I was listening to some horrible statistics. There are more people committing suicide now, more deaths from suicide than deaths from the war
Right.
worldwide. So a lot of people are killing themselves. So please don't do it. Don't become a number. Life is beautiful. You can fight. There are resources. We are here to help. The whole purpose of this podcast is to help people.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this for anything else but just to help. So please, if you like this podcast, please give it a like, subscribe, share. And we love you guys. And I hope that you can join us on the next episode. God bless you. And we're here for you. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Have a great day.